to the basics and refreshing your knowledge of hardware setup. So this session is going to break down what a basic yet efficient technology setup looks like so your nonprofit organization can run its best while maintaining a low overhead. We're going to discuss some of the best hardware for your nonprofit and how to access those discounted rates from TechSoup. So a little bit of housekeeping first. As you've probably noticed, your line is muted, but there are still plenty of ways to engage with us, starting with chat. I see many of you have found chat. If there's something really cool you hear or something you want to share, please go ahead and add it to chat and just make sure that it says to panelists and attendees so that everyone in this group can see your note. But if there's something you just want to share with panelists, then you can select to panelists. For questions too, we love your questions. We're going to have time for questions. The best place to put those are in those two message bubbles on your Zoom menu. So you'll see chat and then you'll also see Q&A. That's the best place to put your questions because you can upvote your favorite questions. You can see what your fellow participants are asking. And if you like a question that someone asked, go ahead, give it a thumbs up and that floats it to the top of the list. And lastly, you will receive an email with this presentation, with the recording, with any links mentioned. It's going to be bundled up in a nice email for you so you can go back and watch at your leisure and share with a friend too, or a colleague who you think would benefit from this as well. Okay, so moving on. If you're new to TechSoup, welcome. It's great to have you here. If you've been around the block with us, it's always good to have you here. So welcome back. So TechSoup, a little bit about us. We equip change makers with transformative tech solutions and skills that nonprofits, charities, and other civil society orgs need to improve lives globally and locally. So what does that look like? Well, a lot of people know us for discounted software and hardware, but we do much more than that. We also provide support, we provide training, community, and much more. And we've helped over 1 million nonprofits around the world. And we're super fortunate to work with generous donor partners. Like we've got Dell Technologies with us today, who's going to be talking more about hardware in just a bit. But thanks to Dell Technologies and our many other partners, we're able to provide a donor program where we get some really great access for nonprofits to software and hardware. So you can check out all of our product and service offerings by heading on over to TechSoup.org/product /product-catalog. And we'll add these links in chat and they're also going to be in your post-event email as well. Okay, and as I mentioned, some of the great offerings that we have at TechSoup.org, specifically what we're talking about here today is the technology that your nonprofit needs, and even more specifically, the hardware. And we've got some great access to hardware at TechSoup. You can find refurbished computers, projectors, internet and networking equipment, headsets, and lots of other great discounts from our technology partners. And specifically, we're going to be talking about access to coupons for from Dell Technologies and more about some of that offering in just a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and drop those links in chat. Look out for them in just a moment here. And without further ado, then, we're going to dive right into our content by introducing today's distinguished speaker. And we're joined by Keegan Sandman. He is Senior Small Business Advisor at Dell Technologies. And he's been part of Dell Technologies for over 8 years, where he currently holds the role of Senior Business Advisor. And he's well-versed on a variety of technology topics, including client solutions, enterprise, and software and peripherals. And he's also going to be joined by Sydney Duckworth, who's business development manager at Dell. And she manages a nonprofit relationship with TechSoup. So she's also a wealth of information. So let's give a round of snaps for Keegan and Sydney. We thank you both for being here, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me here today. So I'll go ahead and share my slides, and I promise to try not to bore you all. I'll give a high-level overview of hardware that you need to run your nonprofit. So as I mentioned, my name's Keegan Sandman, and I'm joined by Sydney Duckworth. And we are going to talk about systems, peripherals, and enterprise. And the picture below, you're going to see a monitor and then a wireless keyboard and mouse along with a headset. So some common things that you would use with a computer. We'll dive right into the systems. And Sydney, if you wanted to go over the type of workers that are currently using these systems.
Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be speaking with you guys a little bit today, and hopefully we can help y'all with some of the your setups for IT. First thing I wanted to go over before we just dove right into it was the modernization of the workforce. Right now, I don't know if y'all were aware, there's a pandemic that's been going on the last year, but we've actually really found some trends that have emerged from this. The main things are that the modernization of the workforce have shown that there's really three big routes that people are going within their own workforce. First up would be the full-time remote. That's what I am, that's what Keegan is. We are working full-time at home. I'm currently sitting at my kitchen counter. I think Keegan's doing the same. It's something that you would move everywhere for. I don't have a traditional office anymore. And because of that, I work on a laptop. It's mostly recommended that you do work with a laptop just in case you are moving from this kitchen table to the couch because you're working late at night. This will be something also you need peripherals. So we'll be going over kind of a basic IT peripheral setup, and I think it'll be super helpful for y'all. Next thing we're going to look at is in the office. Not everybody is working full-time remote like we are, and they have gone back to the office with, of course, all the safety precautions and whatnot. But we're finding that there's different things that have now come into play with that in the office experience, which might mean an open floor plan with like a plug and play type setup of you're kind of going from spot to spot for the day just because there's no assigned seats while they're doing cleaning. Collaborations rooms are having to be rethought as well just because they you have to fit people and also maintain some social distancing aspects. So that's become a big thing as well. We'll go over some video conferencing peripherals, and then a hybrid combination would be those that are partially in the office or at home or traveling. This would be, I know at some point in the future, a lot more people are going to be going into the office 1 to 2 days a week. So they're going to need probably a laptop to work from home. And then whenever they have to go in for meetings or these collaboration spaces, the company needs to be prepared for that also. So we've seen that a lot of people are having to figure out how they're going to re-outfit their specific office. So this will give you guys some great ideas. With that hybrid, one thing also wanted to mention that Bluetooth enabled is a big thing we're looking at. You'll find that with education as well. So look for our different peripherals and then a little outline of our different systems as well as some enterprise solutions too. So this is kind of setting the stage for how everything's going to be going, but I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Keegan to really dive into the meat and potatoes of everything. Thanks so much, y'all.
Sounds good. Sounds good for lunch as well. So we'll talk about laptops first. So there are a lot of different use cases for somebody that's using a laptop. As Sydney and I mentioned, we're sitting at our kitchen tables right now. Last night I was working from my couch. So a laptop's a good item to have if you're either remote or you're traveling or if you're in a hybrid situation. If you're on a missionary journey as well too, it's always good for that. And as we've seen with an increase in education as well, my partner's in education and all of her students are using Chromebooks. So that opens us up to the first picture with the young lady on the left, and she is using a Chromebook, which is going to have a Google Chrome operating system. And this is based on the popular browser, Google Chrome. So the second option that you'll see is in the middle. This is going to be a 2-in-1. So there's two types of 2-in-1s. There's the one that you see in the picture there, and that's just a traditional laptop where the hinges allow you to move the laptop all the way back. So underneath the base there is going to be the keyboard, and that 2-in-1 laptop is plugged into a docking station and then has a stylus right in front of it. The other type of 2-in-1 will allow you to actually detach the screen and the keyboard so that it can be used as a tablet or as a laptop. These are good for anybody that travels and needs something that's lightweight and needs touchscreen. Anybody that's getting signatures, signing people up for services, or in the medical field, these are all good use cases for a 2-in-1. And then on the far right would be your traditional notebook. So you can have the notebook open on the desk and have dual screens if you have an additional monitor, or you can have that notebook closed and it'll have the same functionality as a desktop, as you can see in the picture. The picture also is going to include a wireless keyboard and mouse that we mentioned, and that's going to either work with Bluetooth like Sydney mentioned, and it can also work with a wireless adapter as well. So with notebooks, these are going to be better if you're going to be doing a lot of photo and video editing, anything that's going to require more higher end specs, and these are going to be more customizable as well. We'll move on to desktops. So whenever I first started Dell in 2008, that was the only option. So laptops were just starting to come around, but we are very blessed to be able to have a variety of different options these days. And speaking of blessings, they're great for church media centers or a traditional office or somebody working at a front desk. So a traditional setup is going to be at the left there. So you're going to have your tower and then your monitor and then your wireless keyboard and mouse. These are very customizable systems. You can put different specifications in, and then they are going to come with most of them are going to come with a wired keyboard and mouse combination, but you also have that wireless keyboard and mouse combo that we've talked about several times. A big call out here as well is to make sure that you are looking at the ports that are back on the back of the monitor as well as on the back of the computer to make sure that those are going to connect. And then on the right, we have an all-in-one. We talked about a front desk. It's great for that type of situation for a receptionist. And then it's also good for registration, or if you have retail, a kiosk, different things like that. It's also going to have a smaller footprint because there's no tower. So the computer parts are all behind the screen. And a lot of the times that screen is going to be touchscreen. Again, you can see there's a wireless keyboard and mouse. So that's going to limit the amount of wires that are going onto the desk. As you can see, there's just one wire that's with this computer setup. Now I'll go into some of the things you'll use with a laptop and a desktop. So we have another setup on the left here. So this is going to have a laptop on the right, and then that box next to it is a docking station. So you're going to plug all of your peripherals into the docking station, and then there's just one cable that's going to go into the laptop. So definitely cleans up your desk space so there's less cables. And then to the left of the box, which is the docking station, is going to be your monitor. And then left of that is going to be a wireless headset. Again, you'll see there's a wireless keyboard and mouse that is going to reduce that clutter and the footprint on the desk. Going over to the peripherals clockwise, at the top there is a webcam and then a wireless headset, docking station, keyboard and mouse. That's a laser printer, multifunction. And then the thing that looks like a hockey puck is an adapter. It's a docking station that's used great for travel. So it's going to have monitor connections, additional USB, and then an Ethernet slot as well. And speaking of monitors, the most common size is 24, but there are a lot of different sizes. We even have a monitor that's a very wide screen. So it'd be essentially like having two monitors built in together. And then as you can see in that really nice picture, I wish I had that work from home setup. It looks like it's a high rise in Austin, Texas. It's got two arms that are connected to one mount that would attach to the desk. And then you can see there's a wireless headset, wireless keyboard and mouse. And then there is a conference speaker, as well as your laptop, which is plugged into a docking station that is hidden. So you can see the footprint is very low and not a lot of cables there, which keeps it nice and clean. We've talked about keyboards and mice quite a bit. We have a lot of different options that you can get, and there are ergonomic options as well. As you can see with my mouse, I have an ergonomic mouse, so it's slightly slanted, so it's similar to giving a handshake instead of having your hand flat on the desk. So it's gonna save some wrist pain. And wireless keyboards and mice are becoming more of the normal, and a lot of those are rechargeable, similar to the one that I have as well. So no need for batteries anymore either. We talked about the docking stations. So a big call out here is to make sure that the voltage is compatible with your laptop. So the docking station to the right is going to be compatible with 65 watts as an example. So you just want to check to see what the voltage is that you have on your laptop. This is going to make it very easy to be a hybrid worker. So if you sit at a desk like myself, or if you're traveling, or if you're sitting on the couch, you can go back and forth to your original setup and just have one wire that's going to plug into the laptop that's going to connect all of your peripherals, your keyboard, your mouse, and your monitor, printer, anything else that you might have at your desk, speakers, headset. This particular docking station is also going to charge your laptop as well. So there's some that charge it and some that don't. As I mentioned with the monitors, it's important to make sure that you have the correct connection. So you want to look at what connection the back of the monitor has, and then look to see if those same connections are on the back of the computer. If they're not, you can easily fix it with an adapter. I mentioned the hockey puck, so that's good for doing a remote setup or if you're traveling. And then printers, you can either get a laser or a traditional inkjet. And you can also get either a single function, which is just going to print, or you can get a multifunction so that it's going to copy, print, scan, and fax, if you still use fax. Also, you would want to remember to get toner as well. The printers are going to come with ink, but it's always good to have the toner on hand in case you're printing out a presentation and run out of ink. We talked about video conferencing, so this is a big step in the workforce now that we are not going into the office as much. So if you're like Sydney and I and you miss out on your water cooler talk, a lot of that is done on Zoom, just like we're on today. So I have a wireless headset, but there's also other options as well. You can use a webcam. You can use the webcam that's built into the laptop. And then there's a conference room speaker. You can see that there's some functions on there to increase volume or put yourself on mute. And then on the bottom left there, that would be more for a conference room. So you think more, 6+ people that are in a room so that it can auto adjust on the person that's speaking and different functions like that. Next, we'll go into enterprise, and I'll try and keep it as high level as possible with the enterprise. So you have your laptops and your desktops and your printers that we talked about. You can connect all of those things to a switch that's going to connect to a server. Your server is like a supercomputer, so that's just your centralized place that you would connect all of your computers to, and it would store all of your data. And then in front of the server is going to be your firewall. So a firewall is basically going to be like a bouncer at the club. It's the first line of defense. When you are remotely set up, you'd want to connect through a VPN, so that would go through the firewall first and then to the server to access your data. So it's going to help protect your data. I've already covered some of the points of the firewall, but it's going to establish a connection between you and your network, and that's going to be a barrier to keep anyone that's not in your network out. So definitely is going to be a good way to make sure that your network is secure. We talked about servers. There's a couple different options. On the right is a tower server. So that's going to be more traditional for small businesses. Most small businesses are just going to have one server, so it's just one tower. But if you have a larger nonprofit and you want to have multiple servers, you have that option as well. So that on the left there is going to be a cabinet that's filled with rack servers. You can use a server in a variety of different ways. Most nonprofits are going to have their own server that is on site, but as we've seen, the popularity increase over time is also through the cloud. So cloud is just borrowing someone else's server. So there are different ways to be able to access data. You can either keep it on house or you can access it through the cloud. So public, private, and hybrid. And as I mentioned, most businesses and nonprofits are using a private server that's on site. And then a hybrid approach would be if you have a server on site and then you're also using someone else's computer through the cloud, essentially. So a good way to think about that would be Office 365. A switch we talked about, these are basically just connections that are going to house a lot of different Ethernet ports that are going to connect to computers and printers and different devices, storage units, things like that. Back over to you, Sydney.
Yes, hello. Real quick, just before we jump into questions, I want to remind everybody about the benefits of the TechSoup and Dell partnership. First and foremost, you guys do get exclusive promotional offers, which that's usually 5 to 10% on anything Dell branded. That can be accessed through the TechSoup website, where you would apply for that Dell coupon and be sent to you. We also have Dell Financial Services, which includes like a monthly plan or a leasing option. So something to keep in mind with that as well. We do have a dedicated webpage on the Dell.com website. You can find that on the TechSoup website, the link to that. We also have small business advisors that are able to help you. So like Keegan, if you needed to call in and speak to somebody like Keegan would be able to answer and help you outfit the correct solution and really get it tailored to your specific nonprofit. We have a virtual outreach program as well, that if you were to ever need anything specific, I can usually get you in touch with one of these senior small business advisors or small business advisors to make sure that you are getting the right fit. Right now with the pandemic, we're not able to travel. Whenever traveling is a thing again, we'll be able to potentially go on site and help some of you guys out. So right now, we'll keep in mind that we're able to do that virtually for you. So I believe that we will be having all of our information listed below that you can reach out to us, especially whenever everything's sent out tomorrow. And besides that, I want to say thank you so much for joining us for this, and we will hop into some questions now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Keegan. Thank you, Sydney. That was a lot of great information. And as a result, we've got a lot of excellent questions queued up here. So let's go ahead and dive into this first question from Susie. Susie says, our nonprofit is on a budget and I want to get the most out of our upcoming computer purchase. Generally speaking, do desktop computers have a longer life than laptop computers? Great question.
Yes, that's an excellent question. And the answer to your question is yes. Usually you will see a longer lifespan with desktops just because they're in one place and they're not moving. So yeah, you usually see a longer lifespan with desktops.
There you have it. All right, short and sweet. I love it. So let's get to this next question then from Penny. I want to know about hybrid business meetings. What hardware and setup do I need specifically in my classroom in order to have folks participate virtually while we're holding an in-person meeting?
So similar to the type of setup that we have right now. So you need Zoom software, and then you would need a laptop or a desktop with a webcam. Teachers also use whiteboards. So that's another piece of hardware that you could use as well. It's essentially the old school whiteboard that you'd use with a marker, but it would be digital now. So it's a digital screen that you can actually write on.
Excellent. Great. Let's see. Let's get to some more questions. We have this question from Daniel. Daniel asks, let's see, and maybe we pass on this, but let's see, what's your opinion on the usefulness of Chromebooks in low bandwidth environments or places with frequent internet outages? And maybe if not that specifically, just in general, like how to handle low bandwidth environments. I know that's a question that comes up for our nonprofit community quite a bit.
Hotspots. I love having a hotspot on my phone, and I think that it was one of the best investments that I've made recently, just because, like you said, the bandwidth can be, sometimes it can be not so good. So having a hotspot on your phone is definitely good. As far as overall with your question about Google Chromebooks, I'm seeing a lot of the youth use Chromebooks. They're using it in school. They want to use it outside of school. So I think it's the similar type of situation. I might age myself a little bit here, but when I was in school, that's all we had was Windows. And so, I would use a Mac at one point, but that was really it. Windows operating system was really the only thing. And so that's what I learned in school, and so also used in the workforce. So wouldn't be surprised if, the Chrome operating system was more and more popular as time goes on, especially as these kids become adults and are in the workforce, and they're wanting to use the same type of operating system that they used all through school.
Love it. And we also have this statement from Daniel in chat. Daniel says, at my organization, we've traded in desktops for laptops with docking stations, whether or not we're teleworking, and appreciate the flexibility. So I'm sure we're seeing more and more of that trend. Would you say, Keegan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a great solution. As Sydney mentioned, she's sitting at her kitchen table like I am right now. I was at my couch last night. I can even work in the car now. I have an adapter that plugs into the cigarette outlet, and that has a normal connection that I can put my AC adapter into and charge my laptop through it. And as I mentioned, I have the hotspot. So I can work as I'm driving down to Padre Island or vacation or somewhere like that. So really the sky's the limit as far as with the type of setup that you can have and the different places that you can work and be productive.
Great. And we've got this question from Victor. Victor would like to know, what do you mean by plug and play?
It's a great question. So plug and play means that there's not any software or any type of setup that you use. You would just plug it in and you start playing with it. So it's a very easy way to connect your hardware so that it's available to use right away. It takes out a lot of the frustration as far as with setup and things like that.
Got it. Thanks for that. And just a reminder to everyone that we will be sharing the recording of this webinar, the slides, and any relevant links that we've shared along the way. It will be sent to you if you've registered, which if you hear, you have registered. So we've got your email, and we're going to send you an email within the next 24 hours or so. So it'll all be there for you that you can take your time and revisit all the content from today at your leisure. So another reminder as well, it's Q&A time if you haven't gathered that quite yet. It is Q&A time, and we're taking your questions. Head on over to the 2 message bubbles. It's on your Zoom menu. So, you'll see the chat, which I'm seeing some responses and questions there, but the best place to put your questions are in the Q&A. That way other people can see your questions and they can also upvote them. So that floats to the top of the list if it's, a really great question that a lot of other people have. And you can also comment, maybe if you have an answer or if you have resources and advice too, go ahead and comment on that question. So let's head to this next question. Having said that, from Catherine, and Catherine asks, can you share information about the advantages and disadvantages for a small nonprofit to have its own server?
I think it's advantageous to have a server, especially on site, because you have all of your information right there on site. Managing your own server is going to be a lot less expensive than borrowing someone else's server. Essentially, you're going to pay partially to have somebody manage that server for you. So if it is on site and you have your own server, then it's going to be at a lower cost, and you'd make a one-time payment with having a server in comparison to if you are using a subscription basis through the cloud, then you're going to be making monthly payments or yearly payments.
Got it. There we have it. Great. All right. Here's another question from Angelina, I think a lot of us can relate to. So regarding personal printers, with everyone working at least partially remote, what are some best practices on how to buy personal printers, and if I should go more for laser or for ink?
Inkjet's made a big jump recently. The Epson printer that we showed earlier, it's not hot ink, it's going to be room temperature ink now, and so you're going to see a lot better quality with the ink, and it's going to last a lot longer. I'm sure you've probably seen commercials from Shaq that talks about how you can simply refill each color instead of actually refilling the cartridge each time. From the flip side of that, laser is going to last a lot longer. It's going to be able to go faster per page, and it's going to be able to handle a larger load.
Great. All right. So yeah, that's fascinating to hear. I know it's been a long, it's like a legacy system, but still it's doing the work. So great. That's good to hear. And then let's move to this question here. And I should say, Keegan, Sydney, if you see any questions too that are popping out at you that you're just burning to answer, do let me know. Otherwise, I'll just kind of keep picking here from what's coming to the top of the list. And I see in the Q&A, if you head on over there, you'll see for Catherine's questions that people are chiming in too about advantages and disadvantages to a small nonprofit having its own server. So love the power of community chiming in on that too. Love it. Okay, let's see here. We have a question. Okay, from Jorge. Jorge asks, What do you believe is an ideal setting, hardware, software that's most user-friendly to be used by young adults with developmental disabilities? Any suggestions on that?
It's a great question. As I mentioned, our youth have really gravitated towards Chromebooks. They really like using them. It's based upon Google Chrome, which is the browser I use most commonly. So I think Chromebooks would be a great solution for that.
Great.
Yeah, to go off of that also, I think that if this is something that you're going to be housing them all in one area, that potentially doing something like a desktop or an all-in-one, just because it might be easier to work with a mouse and a keyboard that's detached. That would be my thought process. And also you can have the bigger screen versus working on a laptop. And that way you could zoom in if possible. That would be my thought process. I'd like to learn more about that. So if you ever need any help, please reach out to me and maybe we can get you in touch with somebody. But that's a good question. And I think that's a good response.
Thanks for that, Sydney. All right, we're continuing here with this question from Linda. And I see Jamie's in there typing an answer right away, which is fantastic. Jamie leads the Dell relationship at TechSoup. So let's see, she asks, what are the benefits of the desktop and the laptop with docking station?
So you just use a docking station with a laptop. The docking station is really going to allow your laptop to be like a desktop. So when you're using a docking station, you're simply going to unplug one cable from the laptop and go. And so then you have your normal laptop type use case that you would be a remote worker or going places like that. The docking station is going to allow you to plug everything in to one singular location. So when you do come back to your desk, you plug the one cable back in and it connects you to all of your peripherals. So your monitors, your keyboard, your mouse, your speakers, anything else that you might have at your desk.
Nice and easy peasy as we're on the go, right? From desk to kitchen counter.
Absolutely.
Like that. Let's see. So we have this question about virus protection. Can you talk a little bit about virus protection that Dell offers?
Sure. We offer McAfee as a virus protection, and it's going to do more than just virus protection. So it's going to be a full security suite. As I mentioned as well, you're going to want to have some protection in the data center as well too. So along with your virus protection and your security suite, you're going to want a firewall as well. It's called layered security. So you're going to want different layers of security. So it's going to make it harder for somebody that's coming into your network to get to your information.
Got it. Excellent. Let's keep moving here. We've got some great questions. Thank you to everyone for being so engaged. Let's see here. How about Mike's? What
I see one from Richard.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Sydney.
I see one from Richard regarding digital content. Right now that they're doing a lot of it and they're trying to figure out what storage options. So you're asking about public versus private. So recently I was in a future readiness summit that Dell puts on and I got to learn a lot of information about these different trends. What I'm seeing is that a preferred thing right now is doing a hybrid with cloud and on premises, just because if something were to happen with the cloud, first of all, it gets a lot more expensive as you're putting larger and larger files into it. At first, it might be cheaper. They'll offer you X amount free, but there will be a point whenever you reach, you're spending a lot per month on the subscription to house your data. So this is why also having something on site, like a server, is really good because you're able to have that as well. And if something happens to your on-site server, it goes down, it crashes for the day, you're still able to have that in the cloud. So keeping a combination is really one of the safer recommendations right now. It's more cost effective and definitely could be something to look into for you guys.
That being said, on the server as well, there are some backup solutions on the server itself. So RAID is a way to make copies of your data on other disks. So if one of your hard drive fails, then the other one would be able to pick right back up. One thing that I didn't cover as well that's a really important peripheral is going to be a surge protector and UPC. So this is going to deliver clean power to your laptop or your desktop or your server, and then it'll allow for a graceful shutdown as well. So if your server or your laptop or desktop, let's say that you get struck by lightning and power goes out, the UPS would still run so that you'd be able to save all of your files, complete all the transfers, and then gracefully shut down the computer.
Great. Yeah, there's lots of things you typically don't think about as necessary peripherals that could really be a game changer. So surge protectors, that is a new helpful reminder for me. So, and I hope for everyone else listening. So thanks for that, Keegan. And
No
just want
problem.
to go and circle back to this response from Jorge, who was asking about a setup for his young adults with developmental disabilities. And he says, thanks so much, Sydney Keegan, for that response. We're currently looking to set up a remote workspace for those young adults as we help them to find full-time employment. So yeah, he shared his email there. I've got it written down, but just to maybe connect you, Sydney, there on next steps there. So yeah, that's great. Thank you. Love when these connections happen in these webinars. That's what it's all about. So let's see here. Yeah, and again, Sydney, Keegan, if you're seeing any questions jumping out at you, feel free to hop in. Otherwise, we're just gonna have a couple more minutes worth of questions here. So here's a question from Donald. For the typical nonprofit laptop, what kind of CPU would you recommend? And he had like Intel i3, i5, i7.
Would really just be based upon your needs and your budget. You know, you obviously, if you're doing normal office work and you have an i7, you can't go wrong with that because you're going to have a faster computer. Now, that being said, if you're running a higher end software that's going to take up a lot of bandwidth, then you'd want something that's more powerful. I would say, you mentioned i3, i5, i7. i5 is going to be the most common currently. That's the type of processor that I have on my laptop right now.
Great, that's helpful. All right, here, let's see. We're just gonna pop through a couple more questions here.
I see a question
Yeah.
from Eden asking about how to repurpose older hardware. Resale value with hardware generally is not where it's at. I know that different people have different programs. I know Dell has a program that you can potentially do trade-in value. You're not going to get as much as you think. So if you want to donate it, by all means, go for that. I would recommend making sure everything is wiped before you donate it, just because you don't want any of that information, maybe from your personal stuff or any business files being sent to somebody else. But definitely, I would probably recommend, first thing, if there's a trade-in program, probably not much, donating it. And if not, there's usually in bigger areas, different sites that you can throw tech away safely.
Brings up a good point too. Normally, I see nonprofits replacing their devices every 3 to 5 years, and that would be laptops and desktops. And then with servers every 5 to 7 years. So you keep your servers a little bit longer, and then, like I mentioned, with laptops and desktops, those are replaced a little bit sooner. I wanted to touch as well on another thing that you mentioned, because we talked about processors, but there are a lot of different things that is going to determine how fast your computer is running. One of the big things that you don't think about is what your internet speed is. So you could have a very powerful computer, but not a very good internet connection, and that could be where you're bottlenecking. Another thing as well is your router. So you might have a really good internet connection and have a really outdated router, like I previously did. I bought a new router, and that really increased the speed that I had on my computer. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on is that it's not always about the processor. So the processor is going to be like the brain of the computer, and then the memory is going to be more like your information highway, right? If you have 4 gigabytes of memory, you can think about it as 4 lanes on a highway. If you have 8 gigabytes of memory, you have 8 lanes on a highway. So you just have the ability to do more multitasking. And then the biggest thing I wanted to leave you with as far as specifications go is how good solid state drives have gotten. So a solid state drive is really going to increase the performance of your computer from the speed, because a lot of the solid state drives are connected directly to that main board on your computer, the motherboard. So there's no cables or anything that it has to go through. It's going to be a lot faster, also a lot more dependable because there's no moving parts.
Great. And I know we've got so many more questions left here. We've got the contact information, or what's the best way to get a hold if people have more kind of questions? Maybe if we want to point them your way, Sydney.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of people have already requested Dell coupons in the past, so that's one way that that also information gets forwarded over to me, and I'll usually have one of my sales reps reach out to you as well, just to make sure you're taken care of, you have your discounting applied, you have the right solution. That's one easy way to do it. But if you have something pressing, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Whenever you request that coupon, it has all of my contact information on there. Shoot me an email saying it's Sydney_Duckworth@Dell.com. That's going to be in your request, though, whenever you make it. And I'm sure that tomorrow, whenever we send this webinar recorded out, we can also include my information in there as well. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you guys. And besides that, thanks so much for the time today.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Keegan. We really appreciate you taking time to walk us through what this basic yet efficient setup should look like for our nonprofits. And we will be including all this information, the relevant links. I just included Sydney's email. Did I get that right? Let's see. Hopefully, yeah. I added that in chat. We'll make sure it's absolutely the correct link, the correct email in that post-event email, along with the slides. So with that, you've learned some things that you can get from the Dell nonprofit program. And we also have other discounted hardware at TechSoup. And you can learn more by going to TechSoup.org/hardware. And with that, we really appreciate you attending this webinar. Thank you so much for your time today. And we always appreciate your questions and engagement, and just you answering other people's questions as well. What an engaged group of people. So I'm going to make sure that you get this post-event link before you leave. And again, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for attending. We'll see you at another TechSoup event real soon. Thanks again, Sydney. Thank you, Keegan.
No problem.
Take care, everyone.